Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. Can Canelo Alvarez be dethroned by Billy Joe Saunders? So let's just dig into it and break it down. Billy Joe Saunders is a very, very talented boxer. He doesn't always get the credit or recognition he deserves, but he has put on a boxing clinic against a guy like a David Lemieux, who's a very hard puncher, who's a pretty good boxer. But at the end of the day, there's levels to this game in boxing, and, David Lemieux had already been stopped by Triple G. So, the fact that Billy Joe Saunders didn't stop David Lemieux doesn't cause concerns, because I knew Billy Joe Saunders could stop him if he put the feet on his gas. But the reason why he didn't put the foot on the gas against a David Lemieux is because David Lemieux is a very big puncher, and he was adverse to taking the risk and chances needed to stop a David Lemieux. And if you're, adverse to taking the risk against a David Lemieux, what does that mean against a guy like Canelo Alvarez, a guy who's a hard and crisp counter puncher, a guy who can walk you down, a guy who can fight you in a myriad of different ways? Canelo Alvarez is an elite level fighter, and he's going to break you down, especially a Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders has a lot of lateral movement, but that's never been a problem for Canelo. Look at what he just did against Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs is an elite level fighter. He has a better resume than a Billy Joe Saunders. He did look slow and sluggish. I think Billy Joe Saunders would be a faster fighter, but then that concerns me as well, because Billy Joe Saunders has a history of making weight now, because he's been having issues with his weight fluctuation, lack of discipline. And that's always been something that's been tagged on to Billy Joe Saunders. And I also look at Billy Joe Saunders' willingness to move down to 160 to face a Canelo Alvarez. Yes, you're willing to move down for a huge, massive payday, but why wouldn't you face a Demetrius Andre, which would have assured you of that payday? Because to me, where it looks like and where it stands, it looks like that he's ducked Demetrius Andre. He didn't really want to take the risk or chance of fighting a Demetrius Andre, a guy who didn't have a massive name, a big name, but has top level skill set. And that would have been the type of name that Demetrius Andre needed on his resume, and that would have also been the type of name that Billy Joe Saunders would have been able to tap on his resume as well. Arguably, they would have been each other's best name on their resume, no matter who would have come out the victor. But unfortunately, we don't know who would have won that fight, because Billy Joe Saunders was adverse to taking that fight. He was adverse to facing Demetrius Andre. Yes, they agreed the first time, but he failed the drug test. The second time, they came close in negotiation. He was offered millions of dollars, and he just was not interested in taking the fight. He'd rather move up to in weight and face a guy who's less known in a much more meaningless fight, which makes no sense to me at all, other than it being somewhat of a duck. And at the end of the day, I understand, Demetrius Andre, for a guy like Billy Joe Saunders, is low risk, low reward. I just don't rate Billy Joe Saunders the same after seeing him avoid a Demetrius Andre. Not saying that Demetrius Andre would have beat him. Billy Joe Saunders definitely has the skill set to beat Demetrius Andre. I think that's a close fight. It was almost a 50-50 fight, in my opinion. Could have went either way. But the fact that Billy Joe Saunders was not as willing to take that fight and was looking to avoid it by any means necessary is what bothers me. I don't think that he could beat a Canelo Alvarez. I don't think that he would even survive full 12 rounds with Canelo Alvarez. I think that Billy Joe Saunders is a very good boxer, very good fighter, but I just don't think that he has the requisite skill sets to compete with Canelo at the top level. I think he's largely unproven, and I think at some point he would get countered and stopped. But once again, unbiased as always, it's IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.